master's from the University of Oxford, and we obviously all know him as a very outspoken person of capital when it comes to financing for state colleges and universities. So without further ado, let's introduce the president, and just a reminder, questions after he gives his remarks are reserved for members of the working press as well as members of the press club. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin, and it's great to be back, and thank you for all the work that you do. We've been working with a lot of our news organizations as well as our editorial boards around the state, and I appreciate the work that many of you have done. And as we attempted to bring everybody together for a special session, which we thought was the hard part, we thought if we could get them in a room together for 2 weeks, that they could really get us with this type of stable budget that we could move forward. And instead of going on a 100-yard dash, as I said, we were moving toward by getting them in there to work things out. We're now back in the marathon period. So, as you know, we're going to go through this till June, and you'll hear a lot from us testifying, but we thought it was important to let you know what's great about our university, but what's really happening, what's been going on. And everybody knows our story because you've written about our budget cuts over the many years, the state's financial situation with the $700 million hole that we have. We're really here today to talk to you about some things you may not know about us. Some things I'd like to tell you about, and because we're also tired of hearing the bad news, and there's so much good news going on our campus, our university. We haven't been sitting there quietly doing nothing while all these budget battles have been going on. Even despite facing massive reductions, the past couple of years we put together a new strategic plan. And that strategic plan really is to help our state use our research, teaching, and service to help our state get out of being 49th in health, or 48th in environmental conditions, or 49th in inequality. And the goal of our university, the goal of a flagship university, should be to improve the region, improve the state, and to improve the economy for the next generation of students and our graduates. So we do believe that it is our responsibility, and our collective capacity at LSU is stronger than anybody else's to be able to address this issue, because we've got ag centers in every parish in the state, 2 medical schools on both ends of the state, over about 50,000 students that we serve. And that ranges from UNIS, a 2-year institution, open access institution, to our main campus, which is the best, keeping the best and the brightest certainly is a major issue for our flagship campus, but also stealing talented students from other states and other countries and bringing them to Louisiana, of which we have about 22% from other states, that we take great pride in taking those economic resources out of those states and those human capital resources to bring to our state to help build our economy together. Our statewide network of public universities and research institutions is absolutely, we're all committed. We're all committed working together on this strategic plan. But you might not know that LSU is a member of an elite group of universities. And you don't hear this as much as you probably should, but we're in the top first percentile, the highest percentile of universities in the United States that can claim a triple designation. A triple designation of being a land grant, a sea grant, and space grant institution, of which there are only 17 universities in the United States that can claim this. And what does this mean? Land grant institutions mean that we educate the next generation of agricultural scientists, engineers, and others. And we also build the nation's intellectual and economic infrastructure. They're talking right now about a major bill coming out of Washington that will be the infrastructure bill. But our point is, you need human capital infrastructure to build those roads and to build those bridges, to build all the things that we're going to be talking about doing in the next couple months that will have nonpartisan support at the end of the day. Sea grant institution, what does that mean? That means that we're actively engaged in saving our nation's coast and waterways. If you haven't been to our river studies model, it's right up the road. It's right behind us, actually. The river studies model is the most advanced river studies research facility in the United States, and perhaps in the world. It's the size of an NBA basketball court, and it takes 180 miles of the Mississippi River and redesigns it based on how coastal erosion is occurring, how we can stop coastal erosion, how we can study water flows and water patterns. And I encourage all of you to get a chance to go over and see this amazing research institute that we hope to be working with research scientists from the Netherlands to Indonesia that will be coming into Baton Rouge to study alongside of us on saving wetlands and saving coastal environments, which isn't a Louisiana issue by itself, but we just so happen, as the New York Times pointed out about 3 months ago, they pointed out that we are at the nucleus. We are at the heartbeat of coastal erosion and water gains around the United States. And this is an issue for Miami Beach, from Miami Beach to Long Beach, California, as I mentioned, from the Netherlands to Indonesia. And our researchers and scientists, both in engineering and in coastal studies, are at the heart of this challenge. What does it mean to be a space-grade university? Well, most people don't really know that we work with NASA. We work with NASA to build the rockets that carried our space shuttles into space. And we're going to build the rockets that take us to Mars, that we're building in Louisiana at the Michoud Assembly Facility, south of New Orleans. Those are our engineers, our equipment, working with NASA. Most people never thought of how did those rockets get made and where do they come from. They actually come from our plant right here south of New Orleans with our faculty and staff and others that are working with NASA to make this happen. You also might not have heard that LSU is recognized by Carnegie Foundation as being among the top % of universities able to provide the kind of balanced STEM and arts environment that produces critical thinking. And this is the kind of stuff employers want to see. They want people that can solve problems and think critically. We do all of these things. On top of all this, every 5 years we put together an economic impact study to just remind the state and to remind our legislators of how important the economic impact of LSU is. And I brought you all copies of this recent economic impact study. 5 years ago, LSU meant $3.9 billion to this state annually. Now it's $5.1 billion to this state. It's because of the economic activity of LSU. Now that's collectively. Our medical schools are worth $1 billion in New Orleans. The main campus is worth $2.8 billion right here in Baton Rouge. Pennington's worth another $107 million a year to this community. And you know, you break that down per citizen, that $5.1 billion annually, that's about $1,100 that everybody benefits in Louisiana. Every citizen benefits from. Talk about return on investment. If you think about $5.1 billion, and we get about $200 million total to run the university. That's our medical schools and our main campus. $2.8 billion generated by the main campus, and we get $120 million to run the main campus. You can do the math for yourself, but the math clearly shows that that's a $13.25 investment that every return on investment gets for every dollar that you put into the university. And not to mention jobs and earnings potential. When we turn out graduates that go on and have careers and advanced earnings power, just the main campus is worth $803 million annually in advanced earnings power because of the degrees they've acquired at the graduate level and undergraduate level from our main campus. Total number of jobs, we're at 18,000 direct jobs to this state. 40,000 with indirect jobs that are those companies, those industries, those businesses base their economy on what happens at the university. That's 3% of the entire state's workforce. And I tell people that in some cases that's a pretty big company for any state. But the best news about LSU is that unlike companies, we're not going anywhere. Those jobs are here to stay, and those jobs are here associated with our university. No other university generates over $500 million in federal research-related activities. That's Department of Education, Department of Defense, National Science Foundation, the NSF, NIH, National Institutes of Health. So if you think about it, we generate 2.5 times what the state gives us in federal research-related activities that put people to work and spend dollars right here in Louisiana. We have to be able to compete for those dollars because I guarantee you these are competitive dollars that we have to tackle Ohio State and UCLA to win these funds, to bring these funds to our state so they can apply to our students, faculty, and staff. As you know, these challenges that we face on getting us out of 49th in health is perhaps one of our biggest issues. Our medical schools in Pennington and the work that we do. If we're not helping our state get healthier, then our state is increasingly in the economic quagmire that is swamping our state budget. that's swamping state budgets around the United States. Let me take just one area. Diabetes. 1 out of 6 people in Louisiana have diabetes. And the economic cost to Louisiana, just in the last 5 years, because of diabetes, has grown by $1.5 billion. It is expected to grow even faster in the next 5 years because of the aging population and the diabetic situation we have with young children. More than 60 people in our state are diagnosed with cancer every day. Every day. And our mortality rates are 15% higher than the national average. And our state ranks 5th in the nation in Alzheimer's-related deaths. Our research is absolutely vital to solving these state problems and helping our next generation not only graduate with good, degrees, solid degrees, but to graduate with healthy lifestyles. If we don't tackle this problem, it will take over the entire state budget, of which it has been growing ever since we started measuring this issue. Now, in terms of what our students are doing, our graduates, despite the budgetary battles that we fought through, our graduates are doing well. Our graduates, certainly, they earn more, they have highest starting salaries and mid-career earnings in Louisiana, but more importantly, our starting salaries rank 21st in the nation among 50 flagship universities, tied with Chapel Hill and Ohio State. And our mid-career earnings, age 40 to 45, we're actually ranked 18th of 50 flagship universities in the United States, above Chapel Hill and above Ohio State. That's something to be proud of. And we get this argument all the time with many of our state legislators saying, why do some of the graduates leave Louisiana? Well, we need to figure that problem out. Most of these students stay in Louisiana. 70+% of our graduates stay in Louisiana. Those that came to us from other places, some go back, some stay. But more importantly, we're doing our job. Our faculty and staff are doing our job because there are other people who want to hire them. And we want to work with the state to make sure that, like we did with DXC, the company in New Orleans that's going to bring 3,000 high-tech paying jobs. The reason they came to Louisiana over 300 other communities that they were looking at was because of the relationship they're forming with higher education, but more importantly, the relationship they're going to have with LSU. And we're not just simply producing the graduates for DXC in the computer science and engineering. We're putting our research and development operation in our College of Engineering facility. So they work with our scientists, they work with our researchers, they work with our students to solve their problems, and right down to the development of a computer science online program specifically designed for DXC, which their hub will be in New Orleans, but their R&D facility is going to be here at LSU. So you couple the earnings power, the competitiveness of our earnings with our graduates, with the fact that as the national debate goes on about student indebtedness, only 1 out of 3 LSU graduates graduates with any undergraduate debt. The national average is 82%. The national average also shows that those 82% are graduating with about $32,000 worth of undergraduate debt. Our students are graduating, that 1 out of 3 are graduating with about $18,000, about half of the national average. So you put those two together, you put the earnings power together, the outcomes of earnings power, the outcomes of not sending them off into massive debt, which many of this country's students are dealing with as I speak. The rate of return has never been stronger. And you can bet this is what parents want to know when I talk to parents. They don't want to know, they've seen all the glossy brochures. Parents want value. They want to know what their investment is going to bring and what their students are going to graduate with. And our degrees have never been stronger. And the employment of our graduates has never been greater. And the debt has never been comparatively less than the rest of the country. So as we go forward, our strategic plan is about not necessarily helping LSU become somebody else, but we need to measure our success, our university's success on our ability on getting this state out of being 49th in health, or 48th in economic growth, or 47th in inequality. And the great value that I think the most important value that we have was shown in the recent Chetty study that was out of Berkeley and Princeton. The Chetty study shows it analyzed institutions based on their social mobility. Does Tocqueville still live? Does Tocqueville's point about social mobility, is it still true in the United States? This is increasingly questioned in study after study. But what you can find in the Chetty study is that LSU ranks third in the SEC Southeastern Conference in getting students from a lower quintile to the next quintile in earnings power, which means the intergenerational effect of what's happening at LSU and our graduates is still very strong. Not every institution in the country can say that they are still in the social mobility, that is a mission of social mobility. There are many institutions that take the top 20th percentile and turn out the top 20th percentile. I would argue, what have they really done? When we're taking students from a lower quintile and moving them up the ladder, the earnings ladder with intergenerational impact, we're still strong in social mobility, and we challenge our faculty to maintain our position in making sure that the next generation is better off than the generation that went before. And that's why I'm proud to say that we're at LSU, and that is our most important achievement for this state, is the intergenerational impact that we can have on the next generation of families and the next generation of educational attainment. So having said that, I can tell you that LSU, we're in the process of a quiet capital campaign phase, our largest capital campaign in our history. We're moving forward. Our applicant pool has never been stronger. We're up 38% on applications, more than any other Southeastern Conference school. We're up 99% in kids that want to come here from California, and 140% from kids who want to come here from New York and New Jersey. We're up 5 to 10% from kids in Louisiana who want to stay. So our pitch to the state legislature is just give us a state budget, a stable budget. We're not asking for anything. We just want stability so we can take advantage of the reputation of our institution and take advantage of the momentum that we have as a university. And I'll finish with this concluding remark. This past year we had a stable budget for the first time. We weren't cut for the first year. And the new cohort of faculty we were able to bring in, normally we bring in about 70 to 75 to help basically offset who retired. Not entirely, because of the budget reductions we had to deal with. This past year we brought in 133 new faculty. This is the most experienced, the best educated cohort that I've seen at LSU. Now those faculty, it tells you something about the LSU brand. Those faculty came to us from Michigan, 4 from Wisconsin, 2 from Berkeley, 1 from Harvard, 2 from Yale, 1 from Princeton, 1 from Brown, 1 from the University of Washington in Seattle, 2 from UCLA, 1 from Oxford, 1 from the Sorbonne, the University of Paris, 1 from Punjab Agricultural University, the largest agricultural university in India. It tells you something about LSU's name and reputation. We can bring in a cohort of faculty that we were in intense competition with every other university in the United States to hire. But this cohort is brand new. They're bringing new ideas, new energy, and they're bringing it to the campus so our students can learn, grow from them, and participate in the teaching and research and service that we do. So I'm very pleased with the faculty that we have brought to the campus, the fact that we've turned around this outflow of faculty that we were losing. We've now turned this whole thing around. And we're moving forward as a university with a new strategic plan to address the state's issues, but also to help the state grow economically, to build the next economy for this state with our next generation of students that we have on the campus as I speak right now. So thank you all for coming out today, and I look forward to any of your questions, and we'll distribute this economic impact study to all of you before you leave. Thank you.
When you talk about what you're asking for is budget stability, how does that impact the discussions going on in capital? How much of the, it's a squishy question, but how much of the shortfall is actually impacting you all? Should that occur?
That was one important reason why we went out throughout the state to make sure we could have this first special session, so that we could solve the shortfall issue early. That hasn't been solved, as you know. We anticipate, as you do, that it will get solved down the road. And it hits us at both ends because our medical schools get hit on both sides of this because of the hospital partners. There's too much at stake not to solve this problem. The challenge for us, though, is that if they don't solve it until June, the first week of June, students and parents make up their minds on where they go to school the first day of May. And we want students to know that we do think TOPS is going to be fully funded and our institutions will be funded. But to hold them out and to hold students and parents hostage for that long really does an injustice to the student population that's out there and the parents. And we saw what happened last year when this budget battle went on till mid-June. We were anticipating a new enrollment of about 200 more net gain freshmen. But because this battle went on through June, we ended up getting 650 less than we thought. Now this year our numbers have never looked stronger. And that's why I don't want to discourage anybody because of the state squabbling and fighting over these issues, because we believe it's going to be funded. And we're not asking, as I pointed out, we're not asking for anything. Just give us the same you gave us last year and let us run. Let us hire the cohort of faculty we'll bring in from around. Let us go out and get those kids from California and New York and put them in here with our kids from Louisiana and bring them right here. So that's what's at stake by just dragging this out. And I think higher ed probably has more to lose along with the partner hospitals and our medical schools than anybody else. And I do think that once again, many of our students and families are getting held hostage because these decisions aren't getting made much sooner than when they finally turn out in first or second week of June. Yes, sir.
It's Robert Burns from Soundoff, Louisiana. You mentioned several studies that you made comparisons with LSU, and I'd like to bring up one that was produced by the Goldwater Institute. It's now 8 years old, but it was released stating that the number of administrative positions, non-faculty, have exploded, thereby resulting in these big rises in tuition. I'll just give three quick universities that were in it. University of Ole Miss, the average administrator made $138,000, while the average faculty member made $76,000. University of Texas, $123 for the administrators, $86 for the faculty. Those are the two that are kind of nearby. The rest are from a little ways away. And I've had people from LSU who've contacted me. Unfortunately, they're not willing to go on camera, but they're telling me that if LSU were included in that, it would be quite revealing. So can you enlighten us as to?
What's the question, please?
Okay, I'll repeat the question. The question is about administrative bloat, administrative growth. Throughout the United States, certainly there are institutions that can measure their growth by the per student spending on administration. I'm pleased to say, because we've basically eliminated our system, of which we had 72 jobs in the system office, that we're down. We took those 72 jobs, administrative jobs, and reduced them to about 15 to 18 currently. And here's a good statistic. Prior to doing that, we were about 2.5% below our peers in administration per student spending. We're now 20% below our peers in administrative spending per student, which means our student numbers are going up, but our administrative numbers are not. One thing we did protect in these last 10 years of budget battles was the classroom. And we did take it out of the administration, and that's one reason why we're 20% below in per student spending based on administration. So I do know Texas' situation. They've got a very, very massive system office right there in Austin. Many other institutions have grown, and their administrations have grown. But I would stack up our efficiency numbers with anybody. Okay. And we can quantify that 5 to 6 different ways. And I'm pleased to say we've eliminated chancellor's positions. We've eliminated, I used to be president and chancellor. I'm just president. And our main office that had 72 people in it was a middle level bureaucracy that we have eliminated, with the exception of maybe our general counsel and a few other positions. So I'm pleased to stack up our numbers. I don't know what Ole Miss's numbers are, but I'm pleased to stack up our numbers with anybody and quantify that 4 or 5 different ways, because we do follow this issue, because we know it's an ongoing issue throughout American higher education.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. John?
You mentioned the beginning of the soft campaign, or you're in the soft campaign now. Can you tell us much about the campaign yet? And then what is our endowment? Is it still growing healthily? Or?
So John's question is about our capital campaign that we're in the quiet phase of moving forward. It's the newest capital campaign. Our last capital campaign ended in 2011, and we really should have kept it ramped up and kept it going, but we really turned the lights out. And so for the last 3 years, we've been ramping back up through the foundation and the collaboration of all of our foundations, so that we can move towards a $1 billion+ foundation or $1 billion+ capital campaign, of which we feel comfortable in announcing about a year from now on the public side of this, because we'll be confident knowing that we're more than halfway there then. But you'll hear more about our capital campaign and our efforts to build our endowment. Our endowment is nowhere near where it should be. And when this big issue came out of Washington, D.C. on the tax reform plan, where endowments were going to be taxed if they had more than $250,000 per student, and then it jumped to $500,000, we weren't that worried. We're about $12 per student on the endowment. So we're actually 8,000. We're 8,000 in the endowment, but we're nowhere near the federal regulations. But we'd like to be. We'd like to have that problem down the road. Important part of what we're doing is building our endowment. Our alumni giving has been growing because we've paid a lot of attention to it. 3 years ago, we were last in the SEC in percentage of alumni that gave back to the university. Now we're tied for 7th. So we're making great strides in progress, and you'll hear a lot more about the capital campaign and what it means to the university, and in both construction issues, but also in endowment-based issues. Okay. Yep. Kevin.
Just kind of bouncing off topic here. The state capitol, they're working on legislation dealing with increased penalties for hazing. Do you have any thoughts on that? And also, they've added liabilities in for universities. It's not a lot, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've got a zero tolerance policy on hazing, and we've become very aggressive on this issue and adopted almost 30 new task force recommendations that we've adopted and put into place that we're working on implementing as I speak. So in many ways, the State House is basically supporting a lot of what we're doing. Many of our peer institutions are also seeing our model in the task force work. We met with the SEC presidents in Nashville, and this was an issue among all SEC schools. It's an issue in Ohio State, it's an issue at Michigan, it's an issue at Clemson, at Florida State. I think we're moving towards a period where we're going to have adopted best practices that look very similar on each campus. And hazing is we're just going to have to eradicate hazing. What they're doing in the State House is good because hazing really did not have a definition. There was hazing that meant physical harm or mental harm, and then there's hazing that means you had to wear a tie to class. The spectrum was so drastically different from one end to the other that defining what is harmful is absolutely important. It's important for our student leaders to know. Defining about the consequences, what's going to happen if you cross that line and you break the law and you do things that are against university policy, state law, and federal law, there will be consequences. And we've challenged our Greek leaders. We've told them, we said, it's up to you guys to change the national rhetoric that is out there about Greek life. And you can make it positive, or this stuff that has continued to happen that we've seen around the United States may mean the death of the Greek system 10 years from now. If you don't change the rhetoric and get the good to be what everybody's writing about and hearing about. Because right now, the national rhetoric regarding Greek life is not good. It's not good. And we've challenged our Greek leaders to change that rhetoric, to get a new dimension, a new dialogue going, and let's highlight all the good things that come out of the Greek system. From the graduation rates being higher, retention rates being higher, volunteerism that goes on. We've got to help them make a change in how Greeks are seen throughout the United States. It's a tough challenge because it's really up to them in the next 10 years to change this dynamic around. But we're supportive of what they're talking about with regard to the hazing bill, the governor's hazing bill as well. Yes, John.
Sorry to ask another question, but one thing you touched on in the applications, 38% increase over, I guess, last year. We've had 3 or 4 sessions that still haven't given any stability to the revenue picture. And how do you explain that away? I know I assume it's because of all the other positive things that LSU has done, but there still would be uncertainty for the parents, but having that big fly up in applications.
Yeah, the question is about how we've been able to get this kind of applicant pool in the aftermath of seeing the budget reductions that others have seen. Well, it's been real interesting for me to see how 1 year of stability and how parent stability with their tops, which is not what's happening right now, but having 1 year of that shows how our university can move forward and be more aggressive. And we have revamped our whole admissions and enrollment area. We've actually become very competitive in terms of scholarships that we're offering to students depending on ACT level. And those are out-of-state students as well as in-state students. We were losing a lot of these fights for a lot of our best and brightest because it has become increasingly competitive. The out-of-state student is the hottest commodity in the United States in higher education. And they're coming after ours and we're coming after theirs. And to do that, you've got to have scholarship dollars that are on the table that you can offer them. So our Board of Supervisors, we've probably adopted 15 to 20 new scholarships that apply to students, whether they're in California to New York to northern Louisiana. And we're back in the game. We're competitive, and we're I believe 33% in Alabama. So we're coming after them now. We're on offense, not defense anymore. And they were using that against us to get our kids, by the way, in those bad budget years. When TOPS is scrutinized and TOPS is a worry, they come after our kids with scholarships on the table saying, you don't even know if you're going to get your TOPS. So that's been used against us in the past. But now we're on offense. And we want the state to give us a stable budget, fund TOPS, just fund the universities and let us run. That's all we're asking.
Follow up to that about foreign students. Many graduate students come to this country. Has there been a dip in light of all the uncertainty about that? And do you track that pretty closely?
I follow this.
What's the question?
The question is about international students and what are the trends with everything going on with international students. We're down about 30% from where we used to be many years ago in international students, and we've had a new move to try to get more international students. The environment isn't helping us. I can say that. The national average is about 20% down on international students. And that's because of what they're reading about in India, reading about in China, about, America First has its consequences. And the limitations that we put on many of our international students on getting in, staying in, will have a detrimental impact down the road on our universities, but also on our country. Silicon Valley was built with a third of international students that came over, went to school, and stayed. And now Canada and Australia are getting many of the same students we'd be going after right now because they've adopted different policies to bring their talented students to their shores and to their schools. And I hope we're careful when we use rhetoric against international students that we want international students. We want to be a globally diverse university. Our students deserve it. We need international students probably more than the international students need our students, just to globalize what we do as a university. And I'll point out that a statistic that sticks with me is 5 years ago we took our marching band to Dublin, Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. We raised $750,000 to take all 325 of our band members to Dublin. And do you know that 295 of the 325 never had a passport? 200, over half. 200 of the 325 had never been on an airplane. So we've got a lot of work to do in helping our students understand, and part of that is the growth that they have with international students talking about the world around them. They're going to be living in a global environment, and we want our students to graduate with a passport in one hand and a diploma in the other.
What about Muslim majority students?
The majority of students? Muslim majority? We don't know what our number is, but we have students from the banned countries as well. We have 120 Iranian engineering students that are worried about whether or not they go home and get back in or not.
What about Saudis?
Saudis, we have Saudi Arabian students. They're not one of the banned groups, but we've had more in the past. I am worried about the competition from around the world to attract these students to Canada, Australia, and those that are taking advantage of our limitations that we put on ourselves. So we'd like to be more global. We want our campus, we do global work. Our faculty come to us from around the world, and we want our students to as well.
What about Indonesia?
Don't know our numbers on Indonesia. I'm sure we have some Indonesian students. We've got a lot of Nepalese students that we had to help because of the earthquake a couple years ago. Yes, ma'am.
With the capital campaign started, do you have a plan for how you're going to spend the money that you raise? And if you do, does it include, I know you've got a lot of buildings that have some serious issues, including the library for one.
You're right. Certainly a new library, as I call Global Information Commons Library, one that's updated, that attracts students like we know Clemson, Kentucky, Temple. Some other universities have built fantastic facilities that have more than doubled the number of students using it. Middleton is in bad shape. And part of this capital campaign is how we go about building a new facility that meets the needs of our students of today. And we're not going to pour a bunch of money into Middleton. And the capital campaign does have some facility improvements in it, but deferred maintenance is a hard issue that we're trying to work with the legislature and develop other means of solving these problems. The more we sit around and wait for the legislature to help with deferred maintenance, the more it grows. Our main campus is over $500 million in deferred maintenance needs. And we really spend about 7 or 8 a year in what we cobble together, but we lose ground because we gain about 30 million to 35 million a year in more deferred maintenance. So yes, deferred maintenance. Donors generally don't like to give to deferred maintenance. I was once told nobody ever joined a country club in need of renovation. Donors like new shiny things, but we're going to figure a way internally how we can start tackling this. The longer we wait, the worse it gets. Yes, sir.
Governor Edwards has stated he's backing House Bill 623 in the legislature, which would call for the abolishing of requiring an interior design license to practice. I've got video coverage of LSU's interior design department when they awarded the certificates to the graduating seniors, and I have video footage of them saying, "We wish you luck in heading to Texas because you're not going to be able to get a job here." I mean, I've got the video of them saying that. And I've got several videos where they say what a low percentage of interior design graduates actually get jobs in the interior design field. Do you believe LSU can continue to justify carrying a program like interior design, given that it's highly specialized, that 47 out of the 50 states require no license to practice this field, and there's so few graduates who get jobs in that field? Do you believe a program like interior design could be justified to continue?
Interior design, whether the environment that our interior design graduates are going into justifies us maintaining an interior design program. Environmental conditions are very important, and we put new faculty positions in places where students want to major in, and generally those are places where they have jobs that are available. I don't know the certain condition of the environment regarding that question, but if our students are not getting jobs in these areas, then we do need to re-examine what we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I've been trying to get a legislature to sponsor a bill, and I'm going to say the dreaded word Tulane, okay? And it pertains to the Tulane Legislative Scholarship. But I've been trying for years now to get a legislator to sponsor a bill which would essentially incentivize Tulane to work with the Attorney General, Legislative Auditor, and all that, to quantify in present dollars the value of that Tulane Legislative Scholarship. And at $22,000 per semester, okay, when I did some rough calculations, it came to about $6.8 million a year. If they quantified that and Tulane was willing to work out a deal where, say, Tulane just forked over $5 million a year to the state, and I was going to suggest that that go directly into TOPS, which has a tremendous benefit to LSU. Is that something that you think you would be supportive of and your university would go along with?
Well, I argue in Washington that private schools claim they're private. Why don't they stay private? Public funds, when they're so restrictive, I fight in Washington to make sure public funds go to public places doing public things. And I think all of that should be certainly be re-examined, especially when funding is so tight.
And the thing is, Tulane's willing to, but I haven't gotten a legislature yet willing to sponsor it. Now, I know they'd lose something now. The legislators would lose that kind of little cozy relationship, and you know,
Well, we've
Tulane
got-
would lose a little something too. But
Yeah.
I think a lot more students would benefit.
We've got public funding going everywhere, and to for-profit institutions that have 50% default rates. And I think a re-examination of this nationwide, both at the federal level and at each state level, should be taken seriously and re-examined, because there are institutions that have actually gone out of business recently because of new accountability requirements, Corinthian College, as well as the ITT Institute. Giving people worthless degrees that just shove them into massive debt, which generally undermine underrepresented populations and prey off underrepresented populations. Yes, sir.
Is the 5-year strategic plan available online?
Yes, it is. So it's on our website, and Ashley?
strategicplan.lsu.edu.
strategicplan.lsu.edu. Yes, John?
One more question. With all the applications going up, how is the law school and med school, how are they doing?
So our med schools, we really don't talk about, our med schools don't have a problem. They have entering classes of about 200. They get about 3,000 applications. At Shreveport, 120 slots. At New Orleans, a little more than 200. Our med schools, the demand has never been greater at med school. Now, law schools are in quite a competitive environment. I think 90+% of our law students are on some sort of scholarship, because they have to be, because they're getting recruited right down to the last month in August, with more and more money being thrown on the table. So our law is in a difficult situation. The earnings power has gone down, yet the competitiveness of attracting your next generation of lawyers has gone up dramatically. And I mean, I was talking with our law school dean, Tom Galligan, and I made an assessment. I said, about half of our students on some kind of scholarship. He said, no, it's 90%. And because it's a bidding war to get the law students who want to go to law school in the environment. It's the exact opposite than our med schools in that environment. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that last year, your incoming freshman numbers were 650 under what you thought they would be, partially because of the legislation taking into June. Are there projections for those numbers to be this year, like what
The question is that because of the freshman decline that we had last year in the drawn-out legislative session, that we were 650 down, which I'll equate that's $13 million that we can't put in the classroom. This year, we don't see that happening, but we can't project it and predict it because our numbers are so much higher on the incoming class than we've ever had. This will be the first year we require all freshmen to live on campus too, because the Nicholson project gives us 1,600 new apartments for students and freshmen to live on campus. So all of these factor into the numbers that we have. We hope that this legislative session doesn't hurt the student population that's thinking about coming to LSU. We do believe our out-of-state enrollments are going to be as robust as we've ever had. Our underrepresented population, we're 80% up on African American applicants in admits, 63% up in Hispanic admits coming to our campus. So we believe that because of our momentum as a university, that we're not going to take the hit, but we are worried about our in-state students getting money thrown at them, particularly the ones that have 30s and above ACTs.
Anyone else have a question?
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.